We're back here in 24 hours and we'll see how much really this Porsche Boxster has cost me. Hello guys and welcome back to the Volks Wizard channel. Today's video is about my 2015 Porsche Boxster GTS, which I acquired at the back end of 2021 from a car auction. That was about 8 months ago, and in that time I've done 8,000 miles in it. So I thought it would be a really good time to update you guys on how exactly that very risky purchase has worked out. To do that, I'm going to take the car later on today to a really good Porsche specialist for a very thorough going over, and I'm going to tell you exactly what they report, warts and all. But before we do that, I thought you might want to see exactly where I've already spent quite a bit of money on this car. But before we do that, just a quick request for anybody who's watching who hasn't subscribed to click on that icon on the bottom right of your screen there and subscribe. If you've subscribed already, then thank you very much. Okay, let's start off then with how much I had to pay to buy this car in the first place. To give you some context, it was December 2021. The used car prices were at their lowest then, particularly for convertibles and Porsche. They're always worth much more in the spring and summer, but 2021 had been a bit of a crazy year for prices, and the Boxster GTS hadn't been immune, so it's probably more expensive then than a year or two earlier. But if you want one, there's not much you can do about it. You've got to pay what the going rate is. The only way I could minimise the cost was to buy it from a car auction, and that meant a degree of risk, but the risk was controlled because it was a one-owner car, full Porsche history, and it had been traded in by a Porsche main dealer. Why they traded it in, I don't know, but it had quite a few things that needed to be dealt with, but they could be fixed. It's not like it had been wrapped around a lamppost or it had missing history or it had been clocked or anything like that. All the problems are fixable. They just couldn't be bothered to fix them, and that was probably because it was December. So I paid £42,000. Again, to give you more context, if you'd gone to Porsche with the 2-year warranty, you'd be paying north of 50k. But actually, if you wanted to find a car in this spec anyway, you'd have been struggling to find it from even a Porsche main dealer. And today, I think there are 7 on the market, and I think 6 of them aren't the spec I'd want, and the 7th is that a Porsche main dealer has about 5 owners on it, which I wouldn't want as well for that kind of price. So yeah, I did okay, but obviously it's going to depend over the 2 years how much I end up spending on it. We're only really a third of the way through that right now, but let me show you where the money has gone so far. So when I bought it, the front bumper was off colour and it was pretty scrappy with chips as well. So I had that painted and they've done a great job matching it. I had the back bumper painted as well. That had been smart repaired on the left hand side pretty badly. Sort of usual main dealer kind of job, I think. But none of the panels behind the bumper and front or back had been disturbed, so it's all original. A few months later, actually, the spoiler started peeling, and again, that was slightly off colour as well. So I had that done, took it off the car, which had already been off it actually for the bumper. And so now paintwork is all pretty much perfect. Machine polished it, given it a coat of wax. I don't wash it very often, but when I do, I'm glad I have, because it looks a lot better. Even on this dull day, there were a couple of massive chips on the bonnet that might have put Porsche off, because they'd want to paint that to retail it, and then you have to go into the wings and all that. I just live with it. I'm quite happy with that. I haven't picked up any more in the 8,000 miles. And the front bumper not being original, I'm not really that fussed if I have to have it repainted again. There's probably quite a few chips on it now. Quite a few insects that won't come off very easily as well. Okay, originally the wheels were silver, and a couple had been curved. There's a bit of corrosion as well. Now Porsche probably would have done this if they were selling it as a used car, had them refurbished, but they probably would have done them in silver. I wanted them in the satin black, so I had that done by Prestige Wheel Centre, a couple of £100 that was. New centre caps as well. I think these are copies off eBay, but they're very good copies. They were £30 or so. So yeah, that's transformed the look of the car. But it's not all about looks. You want the car to be working properly and safely. So the Fern Sport inspection found out that one of the exhaust valves was defective. I think it was the right hand side. So the only real fix for that was to get a new exhaust section from Porsche for about £1,200, and I fitted that myself. So that was the biggest bill, and clearly that would have been covered if it had been bought from Porsche. They would have fixed it first or done it under warranty. The back brakes were looking a bit rusty. They worked okay, but really with the wheels done, the paint shining, I wanted the freshest looking brakes as possible, so I bought these from Euro Car Parts. They're actually cheaper than Padgett, but I think they're the original Porsche brand Sebro and Techstar pads, so you're as OEM as you can get, £200. Quite happy with that. So that made the back look better, and actually it did brake better with that done. Fern Sport had found out something about the brake pad wear sensors had been disconnected here and there, so the ones that were missing I bought, and everything now is as it should be, brake pad wear sensors connected, and that's all good. In June, you probably can't tell, but I gave the hood a good clean because it was a bit manky having lived outside as it is now, but it had sort of 7 years worth of mankiness on it, so that did brighten up the hood, but it just needs vacuuming. Now, what else? Tyres, right. It came with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's all around, a good sign. The backs were on about 3 to 4 mil, and with a big trip planned a few months ago, I had to change them. So I did some research. The other Porsche approved tyre is the Goodyear Eagle F1 Asymmetric 2, quite an old pattern now, but it still meets Porsche standards, and it's a slightly more touring tyre than the Pilot Sport 4S, which is still on the front. I'll explain why shortly. So I went for those. I didn't really need a sporty tyre. It's not a car I'm ever going to drive on track, so they were £600 for the pair. Now, what with the global supply issues of 2022, I couldn't get the fronts, and I'm still waiting. They should be here at the end of this month. So we're going to have a F1 Asymmetric 2s on the front. But as you can see, the Michelins have still got plenty of life left, so there's no immediate rush. I just feel somewhat embarrassed driving a Porsche with different tyres front and back, but not being four-wheel drive, it's not much of a problem. A little thing I did that didn't cost any money but made a big difference was to clean out the rear lights, because it'd been living outside. This area here had got sort of all green moss in it, so when I took the bumper off the paint, I got a paintbrush in there and cleaned them out, and that made it look a lot fresher. I forgot to mention, when I had the wheels refurbished, a tyre pressure sensor had broken, and Prestige Wheel Centre gave me for free a pattern sensor, and that's been a little bit iffy. It's slower than the others to communicate with the control unit. I've got another one actually ready to put on when I get the new tyres. I think it was about 20 or 30 pounds from a German car parts supplier, so not a big cost. And while we're at it, I might as well tell you about road tax, because insurance depends on, you know, how old you are and where you live and stuff, but road tax is the same wherever you are. It is £1 per horsepower, £330 per year. So there are older, like I think 987 Boxster S's that would be 500 plus, but because this is a later car, it's got start-stop, it's got long gearing, etc. And Porsche managed to keep it below that threshold, so it's just £330, which I am pretty happy about. Okay, that's where the money's gone, and it's been quite a lot of money, including the purchase price. Let me explain to you now why it's all money well spent by going for a drive. Well guys, unfortunately it's raining now, so we can't have the roof down, but that's not a problem for two reasons. Firstly, because we're in the middle of a drought, so any rain is a good thing, but also because the Boxster GTS feels nearly as special with the roof up. There are a couple of niggles though. First one for me is the electric parking brake, which is not here where it is on most cars. You have to reach down to operate it. That wouldn't be a problem if it actually operated itself in a kind of logical way. So yes, door shut, ignition on, in drive, seatbelt on, it will go off automatically, but it will never ever go on automatically. So you'd have thought if you've put it in park and taken the key out, it should come on, but no, it doesn't. I don't think it can be programmed to do anything different than what it does. The only reason I can think they do that is because Porsche owners maybe don't drive as often as other drivers, and if you leave the car with the parking brake on, it can seize up. If that is the case, then blimey, Porsche owners, you need to drive your car more often. On the Golfs with the electric parking brake, there is still a way of leaving your car with the handbrake off. It's not the default mode, but it can still happen. So yeah, that's a little annoyance. And then the cruise control, it's just me really. I drive Audis a lot and the cruise control is similar, but it's sort of slightly the other way around. So functions that are up are across in this. And because I drive my wife's TT and my RS6, every time I get into this, I kind of do it wrong for the first, probably all the time actually, come to think of it. But those are two minor niggles in a world of joy, even on a rainy day. Firstly, you have that exhaust note. So we've got sports exhaust on this GTS. It's not that rare a thing on a Boxster, but the GTS is the only one that gets a little tube that pipes engine sound into the cabin. So it's a very, very visceral experience, as I will demonstrate now. So I'll just put the exhaust on, no other modes. And the beauty of this car is that you can mix and match. You don't have to have Sport Mode or Sport Plus. If you just want the exhaust and not to have the stupid gearbox mapping of say Sport Plus, you can have it. And that's how I actually drive it a lot. It's super comfy in this normal damper mode. actually a bit roly-poly actually, and recently I've been using the damper on its own button because Sport Plus does firmer dampers, but it's a bit much, especially in automatic mode. So yeah, and the firmer dampers are not ridiculous, they are still perfectly usable. I had a 997.1 before that had PASM, and it was hard in normal mode and really hard in the sportier mode, but no, this is really, really usable. So yeah, exhaust is on. And it really is all the exhaust noise. But listen to that, guys. A few weeks ago I drove a new GT3 at Goodyear's test track. Video, by the way, will drop really soon. It's officially a test of the new Asymmetric 6, but they let us drive the GT3 on Super Sports for a bit of fun, and I'm pretty sure this was louder. And just imagine it with the roof down going through a tunnel. It's so loud and so cheap. But if you're not in the mood, you just turn everything off, let the PDK shuffle and put the heated seats on like I've got now, and it's perfectly refined. And because you've got lovely steering, you've got lovely brakes, even on a rainy day you can kind of appreciate those. So it is like two cars in one. It's a very usable daily car. It'll do over 30 to the gallon thanks to PDK's 7th gear, which is like a motorway cruising gear, which you obviously don't get on the 6-speed manual. But it can be as visceral as you want, with the roof down, through tunnels, that engine singing. And it's quite a peaky engine actually. Yeah, it doesn't really do an awful lot below 4,000 RPM. But something happened, I guess it comes on cam. So we kind of demonstrate in the wet. They're probably asking for trouble, but yeah. So not a lot, and then off we go. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think about how fast it is 0 to 60. I don't even know. I know it's 330 horsepower, but really it's plenty fast enough. But the most important thing is that it's just such an immersive driving experience. You don't even really need to go fast. So when it comes to the cost of ownership, it's kind of like I don't care really, because it's two cars in one, and it just makes me smile. But there is a limit. And let's see if that limit has been breached by taking it to the Porsche specialist and seeing if they find anything wrong with it. Let's hope not, guys. Okay, we're at a Porsche specialist called Zuffenhaus. They're actually a short walk away from where my Volkswagen premises used to be in Hollywood, just off junction 3 of the M42. And as you can see, they've got a diverse mix of cars in here for work, from a diesel Macan to a nice 993 over there, and even a lot of really old 911 over there. So yeah, it's in good hands. I've used them before. They've done some servicing work for cars that I've sold, and yeah, they're gonna get the work done tomorrow. So we'll back here in 24 hours and we'll see how much really this Porsche Boxster has cost me. Okay guys, it's exactly 24 hours later and I'm back at Zuffenhaus to collect the Boxster. Before we have a look at their report, let's just have a look at this nice Mark 1 Golf Cabriolet. I think that could be sand metallic, but yeah, really nice original car. There's quite a lot in common with Volkswagen and Porsche right through the years, so yeah, it's not surprising to see that here. A couple of little things I want to show you that they've done. They've aligned my centre caps with the valve on the tyre. Nice little touch. They had to have the wheels off to do the brake fluid change. They've also painted the bells on the brake discs, so even though those discs were brand new, they look actually a lot better now, and the fronts were looking a little bit second hand, so that looks really good. Just a nice little touch when you have a full service here. Now there are a couple of advisories. These don't really need to be done urgently. I can go on my long road trip in the car in September without too much worrying, but they've said the rear shocks are getting a bit soft. That's common on this generation of Boxster and 911, so it's something to think about for the future. And because they've done a brake fluid change, there are two calipers, two bleed nipples per caliper, and I think the inner ones have been a bit problematic, and that's a legacy from the past where the work was done at a Porsche main dealer. Again, nothing to worry about just now, but if we have to take the caliper off in the future, that's when we can deal with that. So total for that's just under £500 with a trade discount, because I am in the trade. That means the car now owes me over £45,000. Is it worth it? Yeah, I think so.